One man spent what would become hundreds of millions of dollars on two pizzas. Another man accidentally threw away millions and billions of dollars. And the third man walked away from Apple, from a multi-billion-dollar company, for less than $1,000. These aren't all any billionaires. These aren't just billionaires or millionaires. These aren't rich people. They're average people like you and like me. These are ordinary people who made one decision and they lost more money than you or I will ever see in our entire lives. You see, everyone makes mistakes. Some cost us a few dollars, some cost us a few $10, hundreds of dollars, even thousands of dollars on grand cases. But these guys made mistakes. These average guys made mistakes which costed them millions and billions of dollars. So in this video, I'm gonna explain to you three stories of how average people who could have been multi-billionaires went back to their average poor lives. And I'm gonna first tell you the smallest mistake, and then I'm gonna gradually work my way up to the biggest mistake and the most interesting story. So make sure to stick to the end to find out the most interesting story. Okay, first story. Imagine having 10% of Apple. 10% of Apple means that 10% of Apple means that you're a chair member. You have 1/10 of a company is a big part, a very big part. Okay, now Apple stock has surged over the past 20 years. So having 10% of Apple is a very big thing. This person is called, this person's called Ronald Wayne. Ronald Wayne, okay. He's called Ronald Wayne and he owned 10% of Apple. In fact, long ago, in his young age, in his college, after he graduated, in his young age, when he was still developing and building a family and getting a house and blah 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 blah, he met Steve Jobs and Wozniak, who were just about to start Apple. He became them, they saw potential in him, and he became their friend and became part of Apple. He became Apple's third co-founder. Because of that, he received a 10%, 10% value. He received a 10% value of Apple. But at that time, Apple was just a tiny startup, very tiny. He, of course, Ronald Wayne didn't want to take debt. He didn't want to go into debt. He didn't want to take any risk of ruining his life when it just started. He started to worry. He started to worry about debt. He started to worry about risk. Since Apple was just a tiny, of course, was just a tiny startup at that time. It didn't transform into the multi-billionaire company we know today. So what did he do? He decided to leave. He sold everything for $800 only. He sold his 10% value for $800 with a later payment bringing the total to 2300 or 2300. But think that that 10% stake would literally be worth hundreds of billions of dollars to this day. Because sometimes some of the safest decisions become the most expensive. Story number 2, James Howells. This story is about a trip to the trash can. James Howells was a young enthusiastic man with his own mind and who wanted to be rich. He knew a lot of these new technologies that were just coming out, cryptocurrency, etc., when Bitcoin was, barely anything. What he did was he had a setup of computers. He started mining 8,000 Bitcoin. He started mining Bitcoin, a lot of Bitcoin per year. And in 2009, he had come up with more than 8,000 Bitcoin. And he stored everything, all of this wallet in a hard drive. His entire 8,000 Bitcoin, he stored it on one hard drive, which he kept around the house securely. Okay? But one day, he was just sitting, eating dinner, watching TV, when he thought the house is a bit dirty. He thought the house is a bit dirty, I should clean the house up. So what he did, he started cleaning the house up, he started dusting, he started mopping, he started setting stuff up. And during all this hustle, the hard drive got mixed up with the junk, and James Howells accidentally threw his hard drive away. Yes, that's true. He accidentally threw his 8,000 Bitcoin hard drive away. What's the twist? Today, last year, Bitcoin hit $100,000. $100,000. He had 8,000 Bitcoin. Right now, he would have like. Right now, he would have 100 million or $1 billion between that value. He would have that much money at this point right now. The drive, and guess what? The scrapyards where there's a lot of junk. The drive right now is believed to be buried under thousands of tons of garbage. It's believed that it's still there, waiting to be found, holding a fortune which is worth more than hundreds of millions of dollars, depending on Bitcoin's price. Because sometimes you can learn from this. Sometimes you don't know what's valuable. You don't know what's valuable until it's gone. Third story, which a lot of us already know. Laszlo Hanyecz or something. He has ordered the most expensive pizza ever. So basically, he was a software engineer. He was a software engineer from the 2010s. At 2010, Bitcoin was almost worthless, right? Bitcoin was almost worthless, but Laszlo Hanyecz, anyways, something of that sort. He was a good guy and he was a software engineer and he wanted to prove that Bitcoin is the future. So he wanted to prove that Bitcoin can be used as money. So what did he do? He went on the internet. Now we have Reddit and TikTok. He went on the internet and he said that he will give 10,000 Bitcoin for two pizzas. 10,000 Bitcoin for two pizzas. You know how much that would literally be $1 billion right now. $1 billion. So what happened? Someone accepted this offer. The pizza trade happened. The dude delivered the pizza. He gave the 10,000 Bitcoin. The years passed, and now Bitcoin skyrockets. It goes up. It skyrockets. Those 10,000 Bitcoin eventually became hundreds of millions, and even at some peaks of Bitcoin, over $1 billion. Basically, no one can predict the future, but sometimes history can turn ordinary moments into legendary ones. And here's the crazy part. None of these guys were stupid. Ronald Wayne couldn't see Apple's future. James Howells had no reason to think that an old hard drive would one day become a fortune. And Laszlo Hanyecz wasn't even wasting money. He was helping prove Bitcoin that could be something. History only looks at the obvious in the hindsight. And before you laugh at their mistakes, ask yourself, what decision are you making today that could look completely different 10 years from now? This is Demon Tracks, and I'll always be here to educate you in this terms of financial stuff and these stories. So make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so you'll always know when I post next.